Daily trading recap here for this Tuesday, the 12th of April, 2022. Market internal dollar volume on the day, just as reference here, quick for me. First, NASDAQ $239 billion volume, NYSE $339 billion volume, OTC's $2.1 billion volume as of hour 46 minutes after the close here. To Christ be the glory. We had future strategy on the session-wide working out well with that CPI index coming out today, which was, I think it was not as terrible as expected, but still incredibly terrible. So market obviously liked it initially in the morning session, just spiking in the faces of all the doubters, but eventually rolling over, putting us 0.37% in the red on the SPY itself. 9:30 strategy, I sized down to only 2 MES contracts because of just how rapidly we're still rising, how much upward price action was already happening before market opened. So just said I don't want to take the full risk of a full ES contract on that one. Nonetheless, 2 ES contracts, which I want to try to normally do for that strategy, but sure enough, had a beautiful dip and rip, small cap price action type almost of sank a little bit with big volume, but found a little bottom to continue to reclaim to view up and then press to a new market hours high there for a nice little move, and then even broke the pre-market high there, which was great to see. But yeah, then did end up rolling over there. Got up earlier today because I thought I was going to see more. Thought I was seeing yesterday more morning dump opportunities that were spiking at 7 a.m. Eastern time frame off of that 7 a.m. news catalyst. So was prepared and ready for any of those today, but I didn't realize that my morning dump scanner, since the scans beta has shifted over and allowed for pre-market data to be specified in the scanner, that morning dump scanner wasn't even scanning for anything. I don't think it really ever showed up anything specifically. So caught on to a few of them later, but didn't take any trades on that. Either way, I now have the funds in my shorting account, which I'll get into here on some that I actually did take short, 2 tickers there. But yeah, I was very keen on those, looking for that type of price action, looking for that pattern to repeat itself consistently again, as it's shown yesterday and as I've played it in the past before. So going to continually be pressing those, and saw some opportunities, and I'll get into with LIXT that, opportunity was there of moment when, okay, this is the time that I know I would be getting in, but I'm just going to hold off for how low float it is. Okay, shoot, well, it just went perfectly immediately to what my price target was. I would have been totally out of this one before the craziness of market hours, what that was, but live and learn. And yeah, I think I'm still just especially getting back into the rhythm of what this pattern playbook trade is. I definitely just don't want to be pressing full leverage in the sense of going beyond what my normal float scale is, or what I'd like to see for the just overall float, overall dollar volume, overall percentage move. For those type of movers, if it's in the biotech sector that way. So just slowly easing myself back in, but ready to pounce when that opportunity is there. Didn't take that opportunity today. Just didn't see anything specifically that I felt was so cleanly marking all of the check boxes that I wanted to see today. So taking that as a little win in itself, of just better to be on the sidelines than to be in it and wishing I wasn't in it. So that was all I wanted for the introduction. I'll start off with BDSX and AGLE. Took both of these shorts starting overnight for this is one of my pattern playbook trades that I would consider. I think I call it, or kind of dubbed it, a first screen day short, but in reality I think a better name to serve it would be maybe just an after hours spike or after hours to overnight play. If we get these news catalysts that happen pretty much immediately right after the close on BDSX, it was a let's see specifically here. I had written my notes. Yeah, so with BDSX, it looks like it was some ownership changing hands there, and AGLE was more so a news catalyst I'm seeing here presents additional data from Peace Phase 3 study of for the treatment of one deficiency at SIMD. Whatever the heck that means, I certainly don't understand, but man, I haven't taken a specific trade like this in an incredibly long amount of time, but seeing both of these pop up, I knew I just had to take that stab. And this strategy similar to the morning dump setup really doesn't factor in hard to risk reward. It just does not have great consideration, and especially considering taking anything overnight, especially short, just what huge risk that entails. This goes more off of, okay, is this pattern working? And is it plausible versus the actually being able to play it and be in front of a computer and being actually able to trade at the open and pre-market when it has this type of price action, to be able to cut it if it's going against me hard. But I think it's in the same realm of taking anything OTC overnight, in that same realm of just your hands are kind of cuffed, of being not able to manage that position when you want to. But that is this style of trade. And getting a position for me before the pre-market opens today, as we have that specific spike, pretty much right pert near after the close, gets whatever price it wants to fill, whatever percentage move, really has no continuation or volume succession after that, and just kind of fades off and continues to hold the same line, hug VWAP for the rest of the after hours into the close of the overall market. Getting short anywhere around there, not looking for a specific price move. Obviously, if we get a little scale like this of 284, okay, sweet. I get a few more cents there. I can sell into some amount of strength on that aspect, but not looking hard for that as an entry point. But just finding these little metrics, making sure everything is aligned in regards to what the actual news catalyst is. I've screwed myself over in the past of, I think it was, I forget the ticker it was beforehand, but then it was actually getting bought by NEGG. And I just was so infatuated with the chart of how it looked similar to the pattern, this specific pattern, and I did zero reconnaissance and zero actual in-depth investigation to what the news catalyst was to prompt that specific move. And sure enough, and then it found me like a $200 loss on that one, like a 50% loser that was totally and unequivocally my fault. So just making sure all those factors are aligned of what I want to see, that it's not a buyout. It's not, the news catalyst is specific to what it is. And even if there is no specific news catalyst, that it's understood of the potential, the overall manipulation of the stock, the downtrending, bleeding daily. This thing is just meant to get pumped and dumped. That's want to be in these manipulative stocks. So BDSX, and I carried the same mentality with both of these tickers of BDSX and AGLE, holding them short overnight just to not only have a position to be in before that pre-market tomorrow, and then not be worrying in that next pre-market of when I need to be getting up awake on this West Coast time frame, and then when I need to be getting the actual position of, okay, do I want to wait? If it opens like a few cents below, okay, should I wait for a pop to sell into, or should I just go ahead and get short now? And all those different factors, especially when it's so early for me, that it's kind of confuses the trade in its entirety and makes me a little bit more haywire than already having a position and being willing to relinquish a little bit of slippage. Maybe it has a little bit of a gap up, but already having that position in place and still having a clear perspective to be able to trade it well enough for me. So that's the perspective I look at it on the entry of taking and starting it in overnight versus trying to find a position as soon as the overall market hours opens there. So then off of that, the exit strategy for both of these that I carried was, I really wasn't looking to play these into actual market hours. I know that can potentially be the strategy, and as both of these proved today, there certainly is plenty of more downside to kind of profit opportunity to hold a few shares on, if not the entire position, through any morning short squeeze, through anything that happens during this pre-market. If it's still showing, if the chart is saying that there's death upon the sticker and it's not just continuing to press to new highs with volume being sucked in and looking to squeeze rapidly, allowing this chart to breathe, allowing it to have its little variance, have its little fun, but understand that it's always going to be meant for death with this specific pattern of what it should be, should it work out to a T of like I have charted it and seen it work out before. So these were just kind of a little teaser trades, I want to say, for the small size that I was taking on both of them, just to say I don't want to be taking big risk with starting in on this strategy again, for having to not taken this strategy in a long time, but just to also say of this is an experimental again to see if, okay, does market hours offer more opportunity? Is pre-market going to be my best bet? Should I be taking off less in pre-market? Should I be taking off everything in pre-market? Just a lot of factors to be found and played out again, if this pattern should start happening more and more that way. But both of these working out pretty beautifully to a T. Both of them I'm taking for 12%. Awesome opportunity. Both of them scaling out in pre-market and leaving a lot left on the table during market hours, and just letting it find its base and consolidating. For me, it's between a 190 and $2 here. Really, for me, doesn't have any difference. I mean, it's 10 cents, obviously, and of course we want to maximize profits, but that is the end of the chart, and that is letting it complete itself and finding the maximum send-off for what the opportunity on the chart is, in a sense. So I'm just looking for what's the death of a chart, and then the timing aspect of it, how that is so critically important, how I just continue to screw that up over and over again, of whether it's picking a top in a morning spike or just anything of how I was trying to practice those other short plays I was doing. That timing is so critical on these ones versus this setup where it doesn't have to be so insanely profoundly on point, that I don't have to be picking the exact top. I don't have to be in it within this correct 5-minute window. I can establish a position anytime during after hours, after that initial move has happened, and then it's just fading, continuing to hold along that VWAP line there. I'll switch over to AGLE for another chart reference as well there, but of establishing a short position and understanding I'm playing the chart, I'm not playing the price action. So just looking for, if price is there, that's the price that I'm going to be filling at. Like, not that I'm coming into these with a specific key level of, okay, I need to be taking off at 2.8 if price comes to there, or I need to be taking off at 2.6 if price comes to there, but just of carrying that and walking that fine line of understanding it isn't, this specific trade and strategy isn't about the price action of selling into or covering into strength or covering into little bottoms, even though that's kind of what I transformed it into with these first two preliminary trades of this strategy. Once again, of me trying to get back into the swing of this strategy if it's going to happen more and more, but of just playing the overall price of understanding morning spikes are going to happen, as AGLE proved. And it was I was surprised to actually see it for how strong it was. And to see those are opportunities to almost scale into, to be looking at, to say, I'm still sitting in this trade from a position of power. If I was, which I will not be, if I was up earlier in pre-market and looking to play this thing of getting a position anywhere around here, these are obvious points that I can identify to see that it's clicking on, to be scaling out these little shorts, and then using that as a point of reference to say, okay, where is the emotion being played out? Okay, now those are the points to be shorting into, and being able to sit from a position of power, not being so panicky crazy into trying, okay, now I have to establish a position. Now I have to figure myself out, align myself that way, but allowing the trade to breathe and just be fully well knowing that I'm playing this chart, not that individual price action, allows me to play the price action a little bit better, I think is a roundabout way of saying it there. So AGLE, much more downside on this one than BDSX, but beautiful, beautiful opportunities on both of them. And 12%. I can't, I even wrote on both these two. These aren't like these pristine, in my head, of what I try to see as these like pristine trade opportunities of, it's got to be a beautiful block of trading that it just happens. You get your entry, and then just like immediately after it happens like beautiful price action. They hit these specific points and blah, blah, blah. Then you sell into this point. That it has to be this like block by block, beautiful Leonardo da Vinci, David statue, like pristine. That's what my mind immediately went to, of absolutely perfect price action candles. And that's not trading. It's not about how it looks. It's not about how it gets done. It's just the matter of, is it done? Like, what does price action say? And I relate that back, I think I mentioned that yesterday, but of Jackaroo, I think is the best example of that. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks of it, if anybody else is in it, what the volume of it is, what the float of it is. Can you get filled here at this price? Can you get filled here at this price? If you can, you just made money. You're doing what everybody here is trying to do, and that's the main goal, and that's what I have to continue to focus on more and more, is releasing the veil of my own eyes and my own subjectivity of trying to force the market to do something or what I want to see it as, versus just saying, hey, there's opportunity to make money here, and that's what I'm trying to do. The market doesn't care about what I think of it or what I say of it. I'm here to play it, not for it to play me. So I always get very sentimental with these, or just in the recapping of these ones of the roundabout kind of theoretical ways that I look at them, but just absolutely that I don't necessarily look at these as the most beautiful price action, or to say that, oh gosh, I could have been shorting into that top there. Obviously I can't trade back then, but it would have been better to short into these tops here, but I'm taking 12% out of the trade and leaving a heck of a lot on the table. I certainly can't be mad at 12%. That is a beautiful profit of a trade. And I can't knock myself for the profit that I'm taking out of them. Of course, that I can knock myself for the position size that I'm taking. That's when, obviously, I'm going to apply to more as I'm seeing the strategy play out more and more. Going to be looking to be taking bigger size if this hit rate continues to play out the way it did today. But to be, just totally roundabout, beat around the bush of... That's it. It's just about making money. It's just about that number that appears on that P&L at the end of the day. It is about nothing, like the same thing of golf. There's no pictures on the scorecard. It's just about the number that you write down in that little box. So the same thing applying to both of these trades there. BCDA, I had to mention I took a little tiny stab at in taking 200 shares around a $600 position. $3 was obviously a key psychological range for me. I think this one did also have some speculation in it, if I was so correct. And it was funny to see also that the scans chart was showing far different volume and little minute candles here. It was showing at the 8-minute candle the exact 8-minute candle here is showing huge wick above and below, and a huge volume candle that was even bigger than what it did in pre-market, or pretty similar to what it did in pre-market, which is not what Thinkorswim is showing here. Also not as big of a candle. I think I'm pretty similar candle there, but a little bit different in there. So it's always good to get kind of second opinions on these charts as well, just to continue to keep my perspective open that way. But the $3 psychological level obviously posed an interest to me as it held there after a big volume attempt to continue to keep dumping it after that failure to maintain VWAP from the initial pre-market spike. The first attempt for this thing after what I would consider to be the initial move of the spike, as it was just finding that consolidation, testing VWAP here, was right above that $3 consolidation as well. So thought that maybe could have factored something in, not that it was the specific point of that volume profile. Obviously seeing here in the initial run-up, this specific candle of the 723 candle, as that was showing itself to be, okay, there was a lot of shorts getting squeezed out at that point. Maybe there was a lot more few lingering there, still holding around there, looking for this to be the break. And had this $3 psychological level held and continued to start pressing again, of maybe squeezing them even more so, to be saying, gosh, we came all the way back down from 384, now dealing with that emotional stress, and now we're retesting again. Okay, now forcing me to cover. Looking for not a home run, not for a new high daybreak, but just looking to be scaling out into anything around 3.3, around VWAP reclaim area, and anything else was cherry on top if it decided to bust to the upside there on VWAP. But sure enough, it broke 4 cents later for a little 1% loss, and just continued to sell off, really nothing else out of it. A little morning spike, but just far away from VWAP for me to say comfortably that would be a short into morning spike opportunity within 4 minutes after the market open. But yeah, just death due upon it, that one today for BCDA. And then, of course, I got to mention LIXT on the day. I had the great tape replay, level 2 time and sales recording of this one today. And the same thing, this was the one I was mentioning in the introduction of watching this for the beautiful morning dump play, for its failure to maintain VWAP, identifying a potential entry point for a short, even for how far it's already come from that initial peak, to say there's still plenty of downside for how crazy the initial move was in pre. It was like 170%, something I want to say, that it is, from around $1 and then going all the way to $4 there. But I've even taken it, I'm looking for 10% with that morning dump trade, and we're getting in anywhere around 3, maybe just under, and sure enough, we get price action to just below 260. I mean, that is it in a nutshell within 3-4 minutes. So then it's just going, oh, shoot, okay. And these are the kind of byways that I can get away with at times with the super, super high percentage movers, even though they may be a super low float. That can also justify the reason to say, okay, it doesn't have to be, I'm not looking for a full meat of the move sell-off. It doesn't have to be a panic for me to make a decent profit off of this trade, for the same type of profit on the trade that some other charts would be like the chart would have to completely die off for me to see the full weight of that strategy pay off. And for instance, if the initial spike was only a 20% move, okay, then now VWAP is like another 5% below that. Okay, I got to be looking for this thing to almost retrace below where it closed the previous trading day in order for me to really see the full weight of this trading strategy. So then of trying to force that, okay, do I think that's going to happen? And betting upon that versus with these trades, it doesn't necessarily have to be that. I have to respect the fact for this thing to just go haywire against me, but also to say too, it's also very easy. Kind of the same thing with futures aspect. It's very easy to very rapidly make a lot of money if your direction is right immediately, and you can just profit off of that and take a quick little scalp. But the same thing of that double-edged sword, it can also go very wrong very quickly in the same light. So obviously cannot be risking high of day in this strategy for the percentage move. That would be from 3, taking that all the way to 4. Just that is a no for overall risk reward. Looking only for 10% profit and trying to risk, whether it be over 3R to get 1R, just not going to happen there for that risk reward. So that's why this, and that similarly to why I alluded to in the introduction of some of these strategies, sometimes that's another reason why I just can't take it on that trade, because I just don't know what other risk level I could be taking other than if I just set it as a super, super 1 cent scalp risk level that I need it to move exactly right here, right now, or it's just not going to happen as a trade. And this one would have worked there. I mean, the price fell immediately within that candle as it broke, that $3 level especially, and below at the same time VWAP as well. But that's just the weight that I have to carry with that trade and try to manage it. That is trading in its full essence of managing the balancing of all the teetering and tottering different variables that can be affected for these types of charts there. So absolutely crazy price action move. And I just want to mention it was 7 cents a share when I was initially looking through Trade Zero for shorts around that VWAP point, and then even after the move happened, I think closer to 850 time frame, it dropped down to 5 cents, even for a 5 million share stock here. Pretty crazy to see. Just it's not crazy low, but just of how low those bar fee were on that one today. And just mentioning that this one was the crazy mover. It had the crazy spike. We got halting action, which I don't think we've had in a long time as well. And a beautiful little morning dump, or not a morning dump, but call it a little dip and rip setup within 3 minutes after. Hey, we're setting up kind of higher lows here. We're starting to test and reclaim the VWAP. Here comes the short squeeze, getting us immediately into beautiful price action there, and then putting in huge volume after the open of that halt as well. But this was really one of the only ones that did that. So then it just comes to my mind of, okay, if everything else is dying, then you just got to be wary of, let's play all of them, but just be wary of if one starts to go absolutely haywire, okay, that's the one for the day. Let's just get out of that one and put all of our focus back on the other ones that are working. That was today. That's obviously not going to be every single day or just going to repeat beautifully like that all the time. But that's certainly, it seems like a good sentiment of if you do have plenty or a good pick and a mix of first green day movers of news catalysts pre-market on the day on some of these small cappers, just be very wary and mindful of the one that could go horribly against you on all of these. I'm not getting so easily scared at, but just of recognizing the potential on some of these and even potentially factoring that in pre-market to say, okay, I think that's the one that's could do something crazy. Let's maybe even look at it long or just not play it entirely on the short side and put more of a focus on the short side on these other ones that I feel have a better opportunity and not get so involved in emotionally of, okay, shoot, now I'm halted. Oh my gosh, price is at a new high. Oh, I'm getting so much slippage there. And then involving myself in that, taking my attention away from the other tickers that I'm in, but just saving ourselves the headache at times. It's always cleaner and better in hindsight. Hindsight is 2020 and so much easier to trade in the vacuum of backtesting data in space. But just as a good reference point, this is another day of data and mental preparation and building for the days to come ahead in my trading career. That was all I had and all I want to mention. I do want to keep an eye on, just as reference for me, of multi-day faders that just continue to fall off. And watching or looking at my little dumper scanner here, it was interesting to see like MDVL of the price action that has today. It doesn't look anything crazy, but down 24% today after it had these initial first green day and then second green day continuation kind of on the 8th here. Now it's this called like a fifth day type of scenario. But just of looking for any amount of lower highs on this one. That's what this kind of setup was on PHIO, a little bit of a third day play, a failed third day play, but just continued to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And even after the morning session sell-off, there was still more downside in the afternoon. So keeping that in mind on that one. All of these aren't, like nothing is ever a perfect, beautiful setup, but ADN, similar type of thing. It had that first green day move craziness on, what day was that this month? The 6th of this month, and now it's becoming the 4th red day of just looking at that. That's something I'm just going to continue to keep my eye on. Of course, I don't want to be playing those overnight fees, but it does appease the non-taking up of a day trade through my sub-PDT account still. It does appease that factor in me to know that, okay, even though I may be paying some overnight fees more so on this type of strategy and trading, it certainly does offer an incredible opportunity if they just become an easy hold. And again, not in crazily desperate need of specific and hard timing, but just of being in the full trade sentiment of what it could produce, of identifying, okay, here on this Friday, had that huge, I noticed that on Friday as well, it had that huge, perfect volume, perfect push to that volume profile resistance, selling off from there, establishing a position, and holding it even through to today. I could totally see that as a beautiful trade for me that I have never really opened myself up to or looked at it as a playbook strategy trade for me, but I could see myself opening my eyes to that or trying to take more stabs similar to that of kind of swinging short some of these for how little I do feel that it's these type of swinging short plays have just randomly started squeezing or spiking again a few days later, which I know plenty of other traders have made an absolute career off of trading that, of watching and maintaining a watch list of these first green day movers for when that first green day or reclaim happens again, to start squeezing those types of swing trading short mentality. But yeah, for the meantime, I certainly think the downside is there and opportune prone. So keeping my eye on it. That is, there we go, all that I had for the day. I sincerely thank you guys for watching, and we will catch you guys on the next one.